Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, we're going to talk to the best-selling author of the book Turnaround, How to Change Course When Things Are Going South. Her journey just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team. And the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, there's an old saying that I love. It's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up. And to tell you the truth, it seems like we as Americans are always getting knocked down. We were knocked down by COVID. There's fears of recession. The key is to not stay down, but to get up. To talk about that today, Lisa Gable, she's the author of Turnaround, How to Change Course When Things Are Going South. Thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I'm absolutely honored, and I can't do justice to your full bio, but she's a best-selling author, speaker. You spent a lifetime in both corporate America and Washington. 4 presidents you served under?
4 presidents. I've been working for a long time, so I think one way to cover it is when I realize that I'm on, president number 6 right now, or 7. I'm not quite sure.
I think that is amazing. And Washington, as we were talking before the show, has gotten weird.
Yeah.
You served under the great communicator Ronald Reagan, and I fondly remember Ronald Reagan having a beer with Tip O'Neill and getting stuff done, but nobody seems to be listening in Washington.
No, people don't seem to be listening, and there are a number of us that have been around for a long time. We keep thinking about it, and I think one of the unfortunate things that's happened is people used to come to Washington, they'd work for a president, and then they'd go home. They'd go home. They would actually take what they learned, their knowledge of government, and they would take it back to the communities in which they lived. And what I'm noticing is that we're developing this professional political class, and by doing so, we've created a set of dynamics that don't necessarily take into consideration the needs of the voters or the consumers, whatever we want to call them, but it's almost as if we're gaming all of the time. And that bothers me. It bothers me as somebody who worked with Reagan, who really wanted to come back to the American heartland, city on a hill, all of those wonderful phrases that he would have to capture the essence of America. And I just hope that we're able to break out of this and go back to being who we are.
Yes, and I want to talk about your book. We're going to put it up full screen. I love the name of the book. Tell us more about why you wrote it.
So I was approached during COVID and asked if I would write the book. I had been thinking about it for a period of time, doing something around leadership and character, which is a big issue that we talk a lot about. But my publisher said, Lisa, we're going to be coming out of COVID. We need a book on turnarounds. And you've done turnarounds in business, government, and philanthropy. And so you've done the process across every single spectrum that's going to be suffering and having a lot of challenges when we move out of this in October. And so last year, my book published in October, and I was so excited when it hit the Wall Street Journal bestseller list.
That's amazing. And she is a very gifted speaker. You don't have to take my word for it. Let's watch the tape.
Whether I'm working with an elected official, a Fortune 500 CEO, or a middle manager, everybody shares the same end goal. Each of you has a desire to move your organization or communities to a higher level of performance.
They not only had to rectify their image in the minds of the consumer, but they had to also do it within the minds of people.
And that's why I'm so excited to work with you to bring together your teams, your customers, even political parties or corporate competitors to foster quality leadership, diplomacy, and results that better society and create sustainable partnerships and profitable business models.
I started my career in the Reagan administration when I was 19 years old. I was 21 at the Pentagon.
Innovation is happening at dizzying paces.
So we've made things very complicated, and we need to go back to focusing on safety and efficacy.
No, I'm not exactly a wallflower, but early on I was the odd girl out. Having to fend for myself in rooms full of foreign diplomats, global CEOs, career 4-star generals, sitting, for example, at the U.S. Army War College discussing national security with men who'd seen combat. My success depended on making what mattered to me matter to others. And it's the rule I live by today, and I can help you learn to do the same thing. To build relevance for any idea you're supporting, surround yourself with smart people and use research and data as a secret weapon to open opportunities for revenue, visibility, and partnerships. Your vision will be achieved when you fully understand what went wrong in the past and forge strong alliances to develop a plan on how you'll become a catalyst for change. You want to link arms as you climb those mountains? I couldn't have reached the heights I did without building meaningful relationships.
I've also counseled a lot of people on both sides of the aisle, and libertarians, so covered all of the aisles.
Because smart leaders create bonds that show you're truly dedicated to others' success through the ups and the downs and the highs and the lows, the straight aheads and the turnarounds. And never forget that having compassion and empathy for people, it's not only the right thing to do from a human perspective, but it pays dividends when you treat people with dignity and grace. Because the things you build speak to your impact on the world around you. Kindness, humility, generosity. That's all the part of the legacy that you're going to leave as a leader. We're going to embrace data and process because that's going to allow us to speak with facts. But what you're doing right now is you're making success a team sport because it's also how you lift each other up. But ultimately, vision is the critical ingredient in achieving your goals. The power of the big idea is job number one for any leader looking to create sustainable change, seeking to guide an organization, navigate a merger, or change the world.
We have amazing advances in biopharma. We have people developing competitive space transportation. And we've got Elon Musk out there talking about colonizing Mars.
I speak and I write on partnership, mentorship, diversity, and relationship building, and nothing slows me down. During the pandemic, I participated in over 100 podcast interviews and speaking engagements from my home office. Why? Because my mission is to support the next generation of leaders and organizations that are solving the world's biggest problems.
Sometimes businesses don't really understand. They've got something, they go, oh, well, it's net positive, it's bringing in revenue, but they haven't calculated how much time it's taking to produce that revenue.
Let's change the world together by making what matters to you matter to others.
Wow, I would love to hear you speak in person sometime. And I know during COVID, a lot of the speeches kind of went away, but they're coming back.
They are coming back, and it's so much fun to be out there talking to people and meeting people. What I love to do is show up a little early, get to know everybody in the room, find out what their issues are, and then see if I can integrate some of their concerns into the conversation.
And I love it that turnaround can apply to so many different facets of life, including wellness.
Absolutely. We need to turn around our health and wellness in this country. And the exciting thing is that we have so many innovations. As you saw in the video, I talk about innovations in biopharma. With AI, there's so much we can do. We saw that during COVID, where it allowed us to bring forward a drug in record time and deliver it to people around the world. So we have the resources. The questions I keep asking is why? Why aren't those pieces of the puzzle locking together in such a way that we're solving issues around diversity and access to care for people who need it the most.
Yes, and obviously turnaround can apply to companies that are going through a transition. And we were talking before the show about Elon Musk and Twitter.
Yeah.
He's coming in like a bull in a china shop. He's firing people. The latest headline in the Wall Street Journal is he's ordered everybody back to work, so no more remote work. Your thoughts? Who are we to judge Elon Musk? He's done pretty well for himself. Is he handling this the right way?
I don't know if anybody knows if he's handling it the right way. I do have a great deal of admiration for his tenacity, but also for his absolute genius. He is a genius. And his willingness to push the edge. I'd appreciate it if sometimes he'd be a little more careful about how he said things. So, the mom in me sits there and goes, oh my, why did he do that? Why did he put that tweet up? Because he is able to achieve so many objectives. But I think one thing he's noticed, and that we've all noticed, is that young people aren't getting the relationships with senior managers and the executives around them unless they're in the office. And so in order to be able to make changes rapidly as you need to make it, you really need to ensure that everyone's talking to each other, that they have real-time interaction. This is a company that's going to move at a very fast pace, and how can you do so unless you can run down the hall, grab somebody and go, hey, I just had an idea.
Yes, and I know mentorship is a big thing for you. Talk to the young person who might be watching this who doesn't have a mentor right now. How do they go about finding one?
Well, there are two ways to find your mentor. One is you'll want one within the work environment that you're in, and you may not actually find them within your actual company, but you may discover that one of the supply chain partners that you're working with just is this wonderful person that you develop a relationship with. Never be shy about asking someone if they'd mentor you. It's really amazing how people feel happy and they feel flattered and they want to help young people. But then I think a second thing is to go and see those people that you're running into other aspects of life. Maybe it's a friend of your parents. And again, be brave. Just ask them to sit down with you. They don't need to meet with you every week, but they'd be willing to do a phone call every once in a while when you find yourself in a bind and you don't have the answer to the question.
I'm sure you've had many mentors over the years. Anybody come to mind that this person really changed your trajectory?
Well, I write a lot about Barbara Barrett. Barbara Barrett most recently was Air Force Secretary. She was the person who launched the space camp process, and so I always say that that's one of the coolest things. But she was also an ambassador, and she was on the board of some big companies like Raytheon. Barbara and I met really in happenstance. I had recruited her to be deputy administrator of the FAA under Reagan. We were seated at the White House for about 2 hours waiting for my boss, who was late, to show up. And so we got to talking, and she said at the end of the conversation, you need to meet my husband. His name is Craig Barrett, and he works at this company called Intel Corporation. And so at the end of the Reagan administration, I saw this front page article about Craig and called her up and I said, can I meet him? And as a result of that, I got to move into high technology, where I stayed and worked for about 15 years.
Wow, you have such a fascinating journey. We could go on for hours, but we're almost out of time. So final thoughts, what would you like to leave people with?
I just want people to understand that each of us has the ability to have impact on the life of someone else. We talk so much about big aspirational ideas, big institutional changes, but the bottom line is it comes down to us and how we react to success or failure, how we treat people, how we lift other people up along the way. That's what's important.
Wow, you are such a gifted speaker and so wise. We're going to end with her website, which is lisagable.com. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.